If you are pregnant or you've recently had a baby, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Kath Bequee. I'm a physiotherapist working in women's health and mum of 3. Inside my online program, FitNest Mama, I help women feel confident and strong inside out as they navigate pregnancy, birth, and postnatal recovery. Each week, I bring you 2 episodes to support you on your motherhood journey, whether it's real and raw birth stories from fellow mums, expert interviews with trusted health professionals, or bite-sized Q&As where I answer your most common questions. It is possible to feel amazing in your body during this stage of life, and I want that for you. Come and say hi on Instagram at kathbequee.physio, and let's dive into today's episode. Hey, welcome back to the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast. Today I'm speaking with a beautiful member inside FitNest Mama, Ashley, who shares her pregnancy, birth and recovery story. So Ashley is now 10 months postpartum with a beautiful girl, Eden. She shares her journey to conceiving, which included artificial insemination and IVF with her wife. It then discusses her pregnancy journey, which where she describes her hyperemesis, and then the birth story, which includes an induction, her episiotomy, and it's a really beautiful story where Ashley shares how she prepared for birth, how she managed hyperemesis during the pregnancy, and how she supported her postnatal recovery and the bumps along the road as well. If you love a good birth story, I know you're going to love this episode. Thank you to Ashley and thank you to all my members who put up their hand in sharing their birth story. Before we do dive into this episode, I do just want to say thank you to each and every one of you listening today. Perhaps this is the first time you've come across the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast. If that's the case, welcome. I'm sure you'll find this really supportive for your pregnancy, birth and recovery journey. If you are a regular listener, thank you. Thank you to all the reviews, and thank you for sending or sharing this podcast with friends. I don't run ads to this podcast, and rating and reviewing and sharing this podcast is the number one way that it helps to reach more people and helps this podcast to grow. There is an algorithm. The podcast algorithm is such that if there is a rating or a review, it then boosts the number of people it shares the podcast with. So I'm not quite sure how it works, but if you can jump onto your podcast app, whether or not that's Spotify, podcast, YouTube, and give it a rating and review, I would so appreciate it. This is an absolute journey of love, this podcast. I keep thinking maybe I let this go. Like it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of effort. But I can't. I just love it so much. I love speaking to all the guest speakers, the birth stories. I love answering your questions. And if this just helps one extra person to have a beautiful pregnancy, birth or recovery experience, then it is worth it. So thank you. Right. I think that's enough. Let's dive into today's episode with Ashley. Ashley, thank you so much for joining me on the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast. It's a real honor to chat today.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
So as I mentioned in the intro, you're a beautiful member inside FitNest Mama. At what stage did you join the program?
I think it was sort of late stage pregnancy. So probably my third trimester, I found the podcast first, and then through that found the app. And
And what made you want to join up initially?
I wanted as well a pregnancy excuse me, and birth as possible. And I think the FitNest Mama app was probably the first app or the only kind of resource I had really found that was, the FitNest Mama app was probably the only thing I could find that was really flexible because I was still working. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have to try and fit a class in. This is my second child, so, life was already pretty busy. and something that was consistent. So you were using the same thing, kind of the same person across pregnancy to birth.
Yeah.
Which meant I already had the birth, recovery kind of thing there. It wasn't something I had to think about
Yeah.
after I'd given birth. Yeah.
And considering how old's your oldest child?
She's nearly 5, but I didn't
5.
give birth to her. My wife did.
Okay, right. Okay, so this was your first pregnancy as
Yes. Yeah.
such. Okay. Right, so let's go back to pregnancy then.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, do you mind if I ask a few questions about that,
Yep.
Ashley?
Yeah. Yeah.
How was the process of conceiving for you? So many
It,
ways these days, and it's just so great for having this opportunity to chat.
yeah. 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 So it was sort of fairly involved. So obviously we needed to go through the assisted reproduction route. Um, so I had 2 rounds of IUI that didn't take, and so went to IVF and was very lucky. It took the first I got pregnant the first time with the first embryo implantation. Unfortunately, I lost that baby at about 15, 16 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So then there was about a 3 month, probably about 3 months between losing that baby and then getting pregnant with Eden.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to go through the full round of IVF for Eden. I had embryos from that first round.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
had another implantation and then was pregnant with Eden. So that whole process, it's probably from the first round of IUI, it was probably around 9-ish months. But really, it was probably a whole year because I had to have some surgery before I started IUI for some endometriosis and some like intrauterine cyst removal that my specialist needed to do before they would start any fertility process. So for me, the actual active getting pregnant side of things took a year from that first surgery, and then that whole process, and then getting pregnant with Eden was pretty much a year later. Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned IUI. That stands for intrauterine insemination?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a type of, is that another term used for artificial insemination, or is that a type of artificial insemination?
So my understanding is that artificial insemination is kind of the umbrella term.
Okay.
And then IUI is like a technique. So it's less invasive than IVF.
Okay.
So there is some medication involved. You have to have some like progesterone pessaries, which is its own journey.
Okay. In what way, Ashley?
So for me, my like mood, I definitely had mood related side effects from that, but you have to do it. So my family and I just had to ride that out.
Yeah.
So there's medication, but then it's essentially like the turkey baster. It's much less invasive than IVF.
Okay. And can I ask, was it a sperm donor? Was it from
so
a
we used
known sperm donor?
So we used anonymous at the time. So we used the same donor, but my wife carried our eldest with her eggs, and then I carried Eden with my egg.
Okay.
When my wife Marita had our eldest daughter Eva, who was then unknown, but then because we went through a clinic, through the register, the donor registry, we have since had contact with our donor, so we know each other now.
Okay. So you didn't have a sperm from the previous sample 5 years ago. It was a new, I don't know, can they even collect sperm and hold it for that long? Or was it a new sample?
I think they can hold it for a while when they freeze it.
Yeah. But that wasn't the case with you.
So I honestly don't know when his last donation.
Yeah.
was.
Okay.
Yeah, good
Yeah,
question.
interesting. Yeah, no, it's always fascinating because I've got three daughters and they've all got friends that have those different types of journeys. Like it's so
Mm,
common now, and I'm always a little bit of a side conversation, but really
yeah,
fascinated with all the different ways that, like,
ways.
how amazing is it that we live in an age where we get to choose our fertility compared to, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago where, you know, we didn't have as much of a choice. So
Yeah, for sure. And look, we're, obviously very, very grateful for it. We've got two, beautiful, very, very energetic girls. Um, but it is, yeah, it does bring up, I think, questions along the way at almost every stage because it's such a different process. And I guess the morals and the ethics around how are you creating this person, because it's not just we probably ask yourself as a couple, I think you ask yourself different questions than, my heterosexual friends who have, had babies naturally,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
without intervention.
Mm.
When we talk about the conversations and stuff you have leading up to it, they're quite different. So yeah, really, really lucky, but it's also, I mean, it's a very new space. I think a
Mm.
very, still a very evolving one.
Yeah.
Mm.
You definitely have more hurdles to go through than your
Yeah, I
heterosexual
think it's just
friends. Yeah.
different. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Okay, so let's go back to find out you're pregnant.
Mhm.
It's your first pregnancy, or second pregnancy,
Yeah.
first baby.
Yeah.
How was that being pregnant second time around? Because you just had the miscarriage. How was it second time around?
Um, I was ready to be pregnant again. I didn't want a long wait between. So physically, when I was ready, I felt emotionally ready to do it. Um, there was always a sense of hesitancy, I guess, throughout my pregnancy, even when, so my first pregnancy with the baby I lost, it wasn't a miscarriage. The baby had a genetic disorder, which
Hmm.
meant they weren't growing properly and they were never going to survive. Um, so I actually uh, yeah, made the choice to terminate that pregnancy
Okay. Yeah.
before the baby was going to feel any
Okay.
pain, which was a whole, that's
Yeah.
a whole journey in itself.
Yeah.
And then because of the genetic disorder, they wanted to run genetic testing to see if they could find the gene, because that's what would then have implications for our remaining embryos. They couldn't
Yeah.
find the gene. So it was basically a bit of a, not quite a coin toss because it wasn't 50-50
Yeah.
odds, but it was a bit the unknown. No one
Mm.
could really say how likely it would be that disorder would happen again.
Mm.
So it was pretty nerve wracking, but at
Yeah.
the same time, something I felt ready to do it and
Yeah.
like I wanted to try again. So we did, and very thankfully had a healthy pregnancy. But it did mean that every scan I was pretty anxious about what
Yeah.
are they going to find on this scan? What are they going to find this time?
Hmm.
And they never found anything wrong. Eden's
Yeah.
perfectly healthy. She's fine.
And at what stage did you think, okay, we're in the clear? Like, how many weeks pregnant were you at that stage?
I think intellectually, I could reassure myself after most scans. I think emotionally, honestly, it probably wasn't until she was born
Yeah,
that
right.
I have, had her in my arms that I went, okay, she's okay. But then you've got a baby and you're like, oh my God, now I'm going to keep this thing alive on the outside.
Yeah, yeah. Swaps one worry for the next.
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But she was certainly, I mean, she was a big, healthy baby. So that
yeah.
was reassuring.
Okay. Amazing. Because I don't know about your birth story, but before we get into that, how did you prepare for birth, or did you prepare for birth? What was on your radar?
Yeah, so I did as much as I could. So I was working full time. We had another child who's, sort of coming into four at the time, so it was busy. I also had hyperemesis, so I was just exhausted all the time, and felt just rotten.
Yeah.
So I
Oh
tried
dear.
to, I mean, in terms of diet and eating, it was whatever I could kind of keep down
Right. For
for
how long? How long did you have that hyperemesis
9 months.
for? 9 months. Oh
Yeah,
no.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
vomited every day the entire pregnancy throughout my
Oh,
birth, and then haven't vomited again since.
oh my goodness
Yeah,
gracious.
horrible.
Did that affect your pregnancy? Like how mentally, how was that?
Yeah, yeah. It was just, yeah. I didn't love being pregnant, to be honest.
Mhm.
I love I love my kids, but I did not love being
Yeah,
pregnant.
I'm not
It,
surprised if you're vomiting every day.
yeah, I work in a hospital on a ward, so being in the middle of a session, having to run out
Oh,
to the gym or whatever, wherever I was, patient room, throw up in the
yeah.
toilet, get back into it. It was,
Oh my gosh.
I catch public transport, so colleagues, used to giggle when I'd unpack my bag and there'd be like Gaviscon and vomit bags coming out. So I had to rustle through to find something,
Yeah.
pack it
Yeah.
all up. Um, yeah, I'm
Did,
like, pregnancy is exhausting anyway, but when you're throwing it's just that kind of relentless, I just want to, I'm just like a day without vomiting.
so you'd vomit about once a day?
At least, yeah.
And were you feeling nauseous the whole time?
Um, like a lot of the time, but not all the
Oh
time.
my gosh. How did you work? Such a
Work
physical
had
job
to
too.
be kind of a helpful distraction because
Okay.
I had to think about something else. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I would just sit there and you would just notice
Yeah. Okay.
feeling sick all the time. So work was actually kind of helpful.
And this is when the pelvic floor physio in me comes out. But if you're vomiting heaps, did you start to experience any pelvic floor issues, like leaking?
Um, I don't remember having any leaking. I definitely felt like I it brought my awareness to my pelvic floor fairly
Yeah.
early. I was trying to sort of work with it, but then when I had found the FitNest Mama app, listening to your education about the importance of like dropping and flopping and relaxing it and letting it go as much as strengthening it, I was like,
Mm.
oh, I have not been doing that. I've been focusing so much on, strengthening
Mm.
and um,
And it would have been hanging on for dear life if you were vomiting every day. So there would have been a lot of activity in those pelvic floor muscles naturally.
yes, there was a lot
Yeah.
of trying to cross my legs and vomit, like, prepping
Oh, yeah.
before you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have any pain, pelvic girdle pain?
No, thankfully
Yeah,
not.
good. Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going through pregnancy, you're vomiting on a daily basis. At what stage do you start to think, okay, I need to think about birth? Birth's coming up.
I think probably fairly late. That didn't hit me until late on, and I think part of that was because just life pretty
Mm,
busy, and then also I think as having lost my first pregnancy, I was
yeah.
so just one day at a time, next step, and then it kind of hit that like honestly the third trimester, and I remember it was a really really like conscious awareness came over me that
Yeah, okay.
pregnancy is going to term and the baby's going to come out.
Yeah.
Like a term baby's going to come out. And I went, oh, I need to start thinking about birth, not
Yeah.
just pregnancy anymore. And yeah, so it was probably, yeah, not until the third trimester that I started going, yeah, what am I
Yeah.
doing?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah, so you joined FitNest Mama
Mm.
then. Did you do anything else to help prepare you for birth?
So I went through a midwife antenatal, well, antenatal
Hmm.
into, you know, natal and immediately postnatal. That it's
Yep.
the midwife led care
Yep.
program. And that was really helpful, having that continuity. I think because I'd had so much kind of medical intervention up to that point, I wanted as little medical intervention as was safe.
Yeah.
And having that midwife care, I found very helpful for me in that way. And yeah, having the same two people that you're kind of talking to and talking things through and planning, and the education that they provide. I found that really helpful. The hospital that I went through also had an antenatal classes and education sessions, so I would log into those and do those as well. I found really helpful, particularly around the breastfeeding stuff, trying to prep yourself for breastfeeding, which is a whole.
And I love the fact that you're taking care of your physical side of things, with, FitNest Mama. You did breastfeeding, preparation, pregnancy, and then the midwife, the midwife side of things and the childbirth education. So you had the three aspects, which I think is fabulous.
Yeah, I was very fortunate to have those available.
Yeah. Okay, so talk me through the last days. Like let's fast forward now to the day that, the day it all happened.
So I had I probably, if it's all right, it's probably helpful to talk about the last week or two, because it was at that point that an induction was brought up. The recommendation for an induction was sort of made by an obstetrician. The main reason was because Eden was an IVF baby, and there can be some risks with IVF pregnancies, so they prefer to induce sort of just prior to 40 weeks rather than letting them get to 40 or whatever. That's my understanding anyway.
Yep.
From what was said to me. And I was pretty healthy as far as I could tell. Baby was healthy. There were no complications. I was really, personally, I wanted as little intervention as was safe, as possible.
Yep.
But you get this little earworm of doubt that there could be a complication. You could increase the risk, even if it's slight. You could increase the risk of a complication. So I consented to an induction. So day of induction came, got the phone call to then go to day of birth. Induction day came, so I think I was 39 and 3, 39 and 4, somewhere around there. And phone call came from the hospital. Yep, we've got a bed.
Yeah,
come on in. Let's have a baby. All right. So yeah, go in and induction start. So do you want me to
how did it feel to have it all mapped out? Like, obviously you were pretty you weren't too, I'm reading between the lines here, but you weren't too excited to be having an induction.
Yeah, I was just really in two minds about it. So part of me felt I'll do anything to kind of reduce the risk of any complications. Yeah. And the other side of me was very but it's such a small risk. It's so slight. I'm healthy. The baby's healthy.
Yeah.
How likely is this complication? And all the education I'd done had kind of been you sort of learn about that cascade of intervention. If you have one intervention, you're more likely to have the next intervention and the next, and another intervention, which I didn't want. And I was mindful that, with an induction, you have stage one, and then if that, if it kicks things off too quickly, then they're going to try and slow it down, or if it doesn't go fast enough, then they're going to want to speed it up, and it increases the likelihood of monitoring, and with that, the decision making intervention that comes with it. And I just kind of went, oh. trade-off and you just don't know.
Yeah, and for those listening, if you're interested in learning more about induction, I did just do an amazing podcast episode with Dr. Shavi, who discusses induction, and it's actually quite interesting. He talks about a trial, and don't quote me, I'll have to listen to the podcast, but they pretty much they got a really large, it was a good quality trial. They got a really large group of women who had induction. I hope I'm saying this correctly. I'll link the episode in the show notes. But they pretty much took out all the women who were needing to have induction for medical reasons. So those that might be more prone to complications like gestational diabetes, later gestation age, that sort of thing. I'm not sure who they took out. But anyway, they took away all the high risk mums and they actually found that there was no difference for low risk mums having induction compared to natural birth in terms of the cascade of interventions. So
Huh.
that doesn't actually apply. Yeah, and again, for those listening, please do check it. Dr. Shavi explains it so much better than I do, but it was really interesting. That was the main thing I took away was yes, the research does show cascade of intervention, but that includes all the high risk pregnancies that are having to be induced for medical reasons. Yeah,
That's interesting. I might go
have a
go and
listen.
listen to that just for my own, you still kind of think about, did I make the right decision? Was that the right birth? Even though it's all, it's done and
Yeah,
dusted.
yeah. Okay, so you rock up on the morning, your induction's booked in, you check in.
Yeah, so go in, all good. They, admit you and blah, 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 take your obs, whatever, whatever. And then, uh, yeah, so stage one, so, I had the balloon catheter and in it goes. And then those that early labor kind of starts and, yeah, just wandering around for, you know, hours while that happens. And I
Did
had a
you
10,
have any? Okay, you
yeah,
had
so
TENS machine? Yep.
machine, which was I found very helpful for that stage.
Hmm.
I didn't find it very helpful personally. I know everyone's very different. But I didn't find the TENS machine terribly helpful during the later phases of labour, but
Yep. Okay.
I found it really helpful. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, yeah. So yeah, just walking around the ward, listening to music, just yeah.
Did you like the epidural? Was it a big
At the
relief to have
time,
it?
I was I was kind of, I had hoped to get through it without the epidural.
Hmm.
But I mean, it was what it was. And yeah, at the time it was, um, I mean, they're very effective, very effective pain relief. So I was appreciative for the other side. Yeah, I did like the having a bit of a break
Yeah.
from the pain, and I got to just sort of rest a little bit. Um, and then yeah, however long that sort of continued on for, and then um, it kind of got to the point where, well, so baby's readings were sort of like she'd settle and then she'd get stressed, settle, get stressed, settle, get stressed. So I was, then had doctors doing regular monitoring as well as the midwife. And then I got to the point of, okay, you ready to have this baby? I was fully dilated. Let's go. And trying to connect. I was so tired by this point. So it was like
Mm.
32 hours. I think I was only pushing for about an hour.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was pretty tired. And um, there'd been a lot of in and out with the doctors around Bub's reading and,
Yeah.
talks about it might escalate to a cesarean. We might need to do an instrumental birth. Things might need to happen very quickly just to get her out, depending on if she goes from stressed to distressed and how long that lasts
Yeah.
for. So trying to take all of that information on and make decisions after 32 hours of being awake and labouring and
Mm.
anyway, that's a
Yeah.
experience. And then so yeah, pushing. So the active labour was about an hour, and yeah, that sensation of trying to connect to a contraction when you don't have the pain to guide you. So you've got to try and feel the pressure or the tension,
Yeah.
and then pushing. And I was upright in bed, but I was on my back. I'd had an epidural, and I remember saying like, "No, I don't think I want to be on my back. Can we try a different position?" And they're like, "Oh my god, you want to try and turn over?" Like, I'm sort of 5'10", 5'11". The baby was, she was
Yeah.
a big baby, so this
Yeah.
big belly. I'm longish, and I had an epidural, so I could feel my legs, and I'm like, I'll try and turn around and get on all fours. And so I
With an
tried,
epidural. Wow.
yeah. So they try, and I tried it, and they were like, "Nah, you got to get on. You have to go on your back." Anyway, so then on my back, upright in the chair, in the bed, but on my back, and yeah.
That's really interesting. There is some research, none of it's great quality research, but there is some research suggestive of which positions might be more favorable to have a baby. And that would include like side lying, 4-point kneeling. Obviously, if there's situations where we can't be on our back, an epidural is one of them. Maybe you can get into side lying with an epidural, but it's also really, but there are situations where we might need to be on our back. And research is one of those, I guess, annoying things. Like, sure, we have our statistics and figures and whatnot, but just because you have a baby on your back doesn't mean you will have issues. Like, you still got to, let's say it's an extra couple of percent chance of, increased perineal tears, for example. There's still, like, it's that sort of situation where if you lie on your back, you still may well not have a tear. And if you lie on your side, you may still have a tear. So this is where research can sometimes, it's good to know, but it
Like
didn't
that.
necessarily wasn't in your favor in that
No,
in
and
that
they were
moment.
totally right. Being on my back but upright in the bed was the right position for
Yeah.
me to be in. It was the most comfortable. It actually
Mm.
felt much better than 4-point kneeling or side
Yeah,
lying for me.
absolutely. Yeah.
Um, and I was like 32 hours in by this point, so I don't know
Mm.
why that was the thing that popped into my head, or even if it was accurate, but that was what was going through my head at the time. Um, and so yeah, it was an hour of active labor, of active pushing. As Eden was crowning and coming out, her reading got progressively, I guess, less ideal.
Hmm.
And so I just remember there being, I think there was about 4 midwives in the room, and my wife Marita, and then I didn't notice. I did notice one of the midwives kind of kept like going from the foot of the bed over to the door, and then coming back to the foot of the bed and over to the door. And I hadn't noticed, but one of the junior regs had come into the room to keep an eye on everything, and one of the senior regs was, I found out later, at the door, sort of gloving and gowning, ready to try and get ready for an instrumental delivery. And the doctor was like, sort of looking at the reading, like the CTG, getting ready to come in. So I was sort of half aware of that, but Marita sort of explained it to me later. Anyway, it was a midwife delivery. It was a vaginal birth. I ended up needing an episiotomy because baby just needed to come out. It kind of got to that point. So that all happened quite quickly. They did let me know before, but it was basically like, look, you need an episiotomy. We're going to need to cut you. And, consent is like all of, oh, okay. Because what are you going to do? Baby
Yeah.
needs to come out. As soon as that happened, baby came out. And then, I had delayed, what's the delayed cord
The cord
clamping?
clamping. Yeah.
And that took I remember that taking a long time for all the blood to drain. Anyway, she's a big baby, big placenta, a lot of blood. Yeah. And then she was born.
It was how did you feel after 30, how many
I
hours in
think a
total?
bit delirious. The photos of me afterwards are like, they're kind of comical now. To look at my face, I'm just like, what just happened? Um, I remember being like, just, I think, a bit delirious, just for being
Yeah.
so tired. I felt pretty good because the epidural was still
Yeah.
very much working. Um, so yeah, I was able to hold Eden
Yeah.
skin to skin for a long time because we did the delayed cord clamping, and then I needed to get stitched up. So I
Hmm.
had a grade 2 tear on one side and the episiotomy on the other side. But I was sort of quite oblivious to all of that because I couldn't feel it, and
Yeah.
I had a new baby on my chest, so that
Yeah.
was actually a really nice time, I think. Yeah,
Did you know you're having a girl?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Lovely.
yeah. We knew the gender. Mm-hmm. or the sex. Yeah.
And now, when you were talking, I did have a side question.
Mm.
How, with your wife present for the birth as your support person, and the fact that she'd already given birth, did her experience shape your experience at all?
Interestingly, not really. We had quite different experiences despite going through the same hospital. So, and both having IVF pregnancies as well.
Mm,
She didn't go through the midwife program. She went through the OB clinic for all of her
hmm
antenatal care, and then ended up being recommended to have an elective cesarean at
hmm
the final hour because of
Okay.
the size of the baby. But interestingly, when I went through all of my antenatal stuff, and Eden, who I gave birth to, was actually bigger than Eva. They weren't so concerned with the size so much as the IVF risks. So
Okay, interesting.
yeah, we got
What's your
slightly different.
size compared to your wife's size?
So Eden, who I gave birth to, was 4'3" 2'5"
No, I mean
kilo.
your height
Oh,
versus your wife's height.
oh, my height. Yeah, significant difference. So I'm, how tall am I? 178, and
Yeah.
she's 165.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That might have factored into it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Baby
Yeah.
versus pelvis.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, Marita had a Caesar. I had a vaginal
Yeah.
delivery.
Okay. So different experience. Okay.
Mm.
So how, moving into postpartum now, and I'm aware of time,
Yes.
um, how did you find breastfeeding?
I was very determined to do it, but I found it quite hard.
hmm
Just quite a bit of pain getting that initial
Yeah.
latch right.
Yeah.
Also, I think it got impacted a bit by Eden needed to be in the NICU for a few days
Okay.
after,
Yeah.
and I was in a public hospital, so I got discharged before she was. So I would go in and sit in the nursery for as long as I could during the day, and then I'd come home at night and pump. So she was getting mixed feeding from like day one, day two.
hmm
Um, I guess a silver lining to that was that there were lactation consultants in the nursery that just kind of float around, and
Yeah.
I was able to sit with them and be followed up by them pretty regularly quite early on. Well, yeah, in those first few days, and yeah, work on different ways of holding and how to help her latch. And like using a nipple shield ended up being a really helpful thing for me in the beginning. So it was a bit of a journey. And then probably in the first, well, yeah, when she was about 8 weeks, because she was quite a big baby, so maintaining that level of intake and that percentile
hmm
kind of growth on the growth charts was quite hard. And whether it was her latch or my supply, I don't know. But she kind of was not gaining weight at the rate that
hmm
was ideal. So then I ended up probably about when she was about 8 weeks old, going back to the lactation consultants and doing a lot of work for
hmm
breastfeeding. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And why was she in NICU?
She we never really found out why, but she had that really laboured breathing where she was
Okay.
using all of her accessory muscles to breathe,
Yeah.
which they get very nervous about with
Yeah.
newborns.
Yeah.
We never quite found out why, but
hmm
she would just have these periods on and off throughout the day of having very effortful breathing, and that went on
Yeah.
for about 4 or 5 days.
Okay.
Yeah, but she was otherwise okay.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Mm.
Good, good. So I've got two more questions.
Mm.
Postpartum recovery. You're now 10 months. How are you feeling physically after having had an episiotomy? Having given birth to a big baby. How's everything going?
At 10 months, I feel fine now. Everything's kind of back to normal, but that took a long time.
Yeah.
It was probably until about 6 months
Yeah.
that everything. I don't want to. I don't know how much you want me to share about it. I don't want to scare anyone, but I guess I can share it with you, and then you can edit cut what you
Okay, go
what
for
you
it,
do or don't
Ashley.
want,
Well,
or
I
not
think
if you
okay.
mindful
So for
task.
anyone who's concerned about, are you going to talk about pelvic floor, Ashley?
No, my pelvic floor was actually fine. It was the episiotomy healing.
Okay, so anyone who's concerned about healing, or maybe just mute now from this point. And then, but this sort of information that I assume you're about to share can be really helpful for someone else who's postpartum, who's listening to this story and, going through the same journey as you. So go for it, Ashley.
Um, yeah, so I had the episiotomy, and I had some wound healing issues that went on for a long time. So I had some like wound dehiscence, so a section of the episiotomy stitching that came away. I I wonder how much that was impacted on by sitting on NICU chairs for 10 hours a day rather than being able to side lie and
Yeah, right.
rest. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but it was,
Yeah, interesting.
it was incredibly uncomfortable. So yeah, most of it healed fine, as you would expect, but there was a small but fairly significant section that did not, and it took a very, very long time. Like I didn't sit comfortably for about 4 months. I had
Yeah,
to,
right.
at 6 months, have a second minor surgical procedure
Mm-hmm.
to have everything
Yeah, right.
as it healed well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then it was fine. But
Okay.
I do wonder how much of it was because
Mm.
I was sitting on not great
Yeah.
chairs for long periods of time. And
All the
then,
NICUs need to get some couches so these
yeah,
newly postpartum mums can do horizontal rest because that's absolutely, in the top three things to help support your physical recovery post-birth.
yeah, yeah, it
Yeah,
was a huge thing I noticed when I came home and I was able to side lie and
yeah,
lie on my back, with my legs up,
yeah.
that pain and rest. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're on after that 4 month mark, you were on the road to recovery.
Yes, all good now.
Yeah. If someone's listening today who's perhaps pregnant, now that you are a well-seasoned mother of a 10-month-old and a 5-year-old, what any advice, any final words you'd like to mention?
Um, I think it can feel very isolating, and for me, because that was my first and only, we're happy with our two children. Um, kind of pregnancy and birth experience, I found it really helpful to kind of have, there can be either information overload or you feel like there's a kind of a dearth of information, just no information. You can feel quite isolated or
Mm.
overwhelmed. I found it helpful to have there were probably two podcasts that I would listen to that I found quite helpful, and the FitNest Mama app, which was, I was like, these are the exercises I know I can do. I know they're safe and I don't have to plan them. I don't have to think about them. I just have to open the app and do them.
Mm-hmm.
I think having as much stuff, you pick one or two things and like that's it. They're your
Yeah,
go-tos.
clear
I
out the
found that
noise.
very helpful rather than kind of reading everything and, going
Yeah,
down every rabbit hole.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that advice because in this day and age where we have an information overload, it's, as you mentioned, podcasts, social media, like this, it's so easy to fall into a bit of a rabbit
Mm.
warren, so to speak, and feel overwhelmed.
Yes.
And we know, yeah, so I love that advice.
Mm.
Ashley, it's always an absolute honor speaking with a member of, my program and for you to take this time out today, just before you go back to work, your
Mhm.
final few precious days of mat leave, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much for, I guess, sharing your story and such a valuable story. And I know it can feel like it takes a lot of brave to share your story. So thank you so much for entrusting your story on the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast.
No worries. Thank you. Thank you for listening to it.
Thanks for listening to the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast brought to you by FitNest Mama, your app for home-based, physio-led pregnancy and postnatal workouts. If you found this episode helpful, please tap follow, leave a quick review and share it to your stories. Tag at cathbequee.physio. I'd love to connect and cheer you on. And don't forget to check out the free trial at fitnessmama.com/free to start feeling confident, strong and supported today. Until next time, remember, a strong body, a confident birth and empowered recovery is something you deserve. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for individual medical advice, diagnosis or treatment. Please consult your healthcare provider for your personalised guidance.